Our hero wakes up next to a girl who claims that she is God and asks him to choose a new world in which he will live since he died at the age of 17. Let's round up to 18 for safety, and next to him is Sasaki, who died at the same time as he. Suzuki is surprised and asks if he is really dead, and God tells him that he has absolutely gone into oblivion since the truth caught up with him and destroyed him, and not a single man in the two world could ever see the light of day after contact with the truck. Since their death was truly an accident, God allows them both to choose a new world that they desire. Sasaki asks to be reborn into a twisted world where he can smoke a cigarette, ride a motorcycle and fight people as if he is a VAT. God agrees and decides to send him to the extreme crazy world of the SS and gives him the ability to be very strong. She tells him that with this ability he can defeat all his enemies and save this terrible world from. Asks if this can work, and for Suzuki answers honestly, looking at me, there is no way. How can I fight with someone I don't even have a jar of cucumbers can't open? He then asks to be reborn as a tardy Velho where he can enjoy life by farming with friends and getting married. He explains that he is an orphan and has been through a lot, so he would like to spend his days in peace with good people. God offers the world of farming with difficulty F and asks if he agrees with the ability to be unconditionally loved by the locals. He agrees, and they were both ready to be reborn into their new worlds. God snaps his finger and they disappear, but after she moved them, the question is whether she made a mistake because she forgot which one was Suzuki. Suzuki wakes up and the king greets him and calls him an almighty hero. The king's assistant gives the king a paper on which the statistics of the hero Zuki are indicated. The Lord's army could attack them at any moment, and before he could finish the sentence his head slides from his shoulders and everyone begins to panic as the demons are already. Officer Kiru and Mio stepped on them and begin to chase all the people while their captain Nea remains behind. Suzuki panics because there is nothing friendly in this world and he wonders if he was accidentally replaced by God in the place of Sasaki. He is ready to run away, but after seeing how the people screaming for help, he begins to feel the power of love and friendship within himself and almost feels that the moment of his awakening is coming. Like the main character of the anime, and he realizes that if God confused him with Sasaki, then he possibly has the ability to become super strong. Suddenly Fong music starts playing in the background and he heads towards the captain. Through a right blow, it turns out that this blow did absolutely nothing. His face fell and the subordinate NEF began to laugh at him, calling him human uncleanness while she was preparing to pierce him. Suzuki began to cry as his hiccup life was like, then even worse than his ordinary life, but before the captain continued his act she looks at him and realizes that he is really cute. She begins to sweat like before. She has never had to feel something like this, but she restrains herself and reminds herself that he is just worm. She begins to have internal conflicts with the voices in her head and she decides that she must kill him, but looking at him again she thinks that it is simply impossible for her to do this. However, she sets a bad example for her subordinates if she leaves him alive, but her subordinates think the same thing. They want him to stay alive since he's so cute. The twins look at each other and decide to stop her. Suzuki gets confused and wonders why she stopped and he thinks that she was planning to torture him. He tells her to finish it quickly. FIA starts sweating and calls him human again, evil spirits, but says that she never said that she would kill him. Suzuki gets confused and the stars begin to twinkle above his head. Faya points at him and says that punishment awaits him but not death. She begins to think about what to do with him and comes up with the idea of sending him to the dungeon of the Gemini Castle. Quickly surround him and agree with her idea. The Fia also orders them to feed him 3 meals a day and also add an afternoon snack in the afternoon. The guy actually ended up in Premium Plus prison. Then she asks his name and Suzuki introduces herself. She says that the name sounds good. However, after hearing that he will be given 3 meals a day, Suzuki thinks that she plans to fatten up his wife and then sit down. The twins begin to laugh and say that stop talking, grabbing his hand and taking him to her castle. Rising on his wings, Captain Faya looks at them and begins to panic as he is very much jealous seeing how the twins hold Suzuki. Suzuki ends up in their castle and ends up in prison, but the twins provided him with a sofa and warm water for his feet. He remembers the moment when the demons destroyed everyone and thinks that death awaits him. He is in despair and says that he just wanted to live in the suffering simulator, but why did he end up in this world? Meanwhile, God looks at him through the ball and says, it's terrible to be you, Suzuki, but I can't do anything about it because after hiccups a person can no longer be brought back. However, With his ability, if it is used correctly, she can save the vicious world in which he is spa TEF, and says good luck, because if this guy can change this world where people's heads lie everywhere. Fire returns to her castle and is very happy that she finally sees Suzuki. She breaks the door and the guy has disappeared. She asks the guard what happened and where is Gemini. He tells her that Gemini is dealing with the survivors from yesterday, and 7 other people he sent them in advance to the torture tent. Faya got scared hearing this, and the guy with the skull emoji started laughing, thinking that he did a good job and will get a promotion, but the only promotion that he will get, this NEF. She spanks his brain and screams at him. She became scared because the torture chamber is an absolutely nightmare place, and even if one of the people could escape, he would go crazy, and she was sweating drops because Suzuki is located in deep trouble, and she puts on her cross-country shoes in sport mode and runs as fast as she can to save Suzuki from torture. Meanwhile, Suzuki is in his pants seeing another person being fed caterpillars. His partner is trying to cry because even if they give him the information he needs, they still don't care. Suzuki sees this and tells him not to worry because his turn is next and he will try to hold out as long as possible to buy him time before he can finish his heroic speech. A guy appeared behind him. Suzuki got his pants dirty and he realized that he is not ready for this and that he has no chance of buying time for this guy. The other guy screams for help, but his head is simply smashed and thrown against the wall. The guy grabs Suzuki's cheeks and suddenly he starts sweating. Suzuki is stunned and the guy wonders why his vision bothers him as much as he does. Always liked feeding insects to people. Suzuki asks if he's going to kill him instantly, but to his surprise the guy replies that not at all. Suddenly he turns on the Skrillex music and hits his head on the wall too many times and starts wondering what to do. He looks at Suzuki, who is crying, and thinks that the guy very cute, so he apologizes to him and wraps him in a blanket. The guy takes off his mask to wipe away Suzuki's tears, and it turns out that behind the mask there is a woman, and she turns out to be a very muscular tomboy. Now I would also want to get into this torture chamber. She calls herself a group since she is OCD and she is very muscular. She asks him to return her mask as soon as he finishes. Suzuki is surprised and says that he does not consider her a group at all, but on the contrary she is very cute. She starts to blush and asks if he is making fun of her, but Suzuki calms her down and again calls her cute. She is very happy about this and she lets out a cute little laugh that sounds like she has been smoking 60 packs of cigarettes every day for the last 15 years. Then she excitedly asks his name and is eager to talk to him. She places her dog. Suzuki asks his name and she says that her name is Uruk Guru and asks him not to forget this name. Then she explains that usually she is very bad at talking, but for some reason Suzuki it becomes very easy for her, or better yet, wetly. Suddenly someone calls her by name and this is Nephews Uekuru. Asks why she is here, but she tells her that it doesn't matter and she is very happy to see that Suzuki is okay. Then she asks Suzuki who is he. Urura tells her that he is the one who tortured her and so on. Not Faya is shocked as she never didn't see her without a paper bag from her friend. Then asks Nifa don't kill Suzuki. Nifa looks at her confused and says she doesn't need to talk about it, and she takes Suzuki back to the slave room. She smiles at Suzuki and tells him that the slave room is the safest place and he shouldn't worry about anything, but she's sad because it means he won't come back here anymore. Suzuki looks at him and asks her to stop torturing the other 2 prisoners, and if she does what he asks he promises to come back to her again. She is very happy and hugs him, promising that she will not torture the other 2 prisoners. Faya is very jealous when she sees this and quickly takes him back to the slave room, and it turns out that he ended up exactly where he expected. Nothing has changed in this world and it is still a place where everything is ruined. The prisoner calls him a hero. Nef herself introduces him to the slave house and says that she would like him to be transferred to a better place like her room, but he will have to wait until the day of the choice. Suzuki tries and Nef that this is the day when the demons they choose which slave will serve them, and it is decided at the auction. The day of the selection will take place in a week. Then she hands Suzuki some necklace and tells him that if anything bothers him he should call this necklace. She explains that by doing this every person on this floor besides, he will turn into ashes. However, Suzuki tells her that he doesn't need it and says that a week is a short time for a big alpha male. Suzuki, Faya gets annoyed because she spent so much effort on creating this necklace and takes it away, leaving with a broken heart. 2 prisoners are angry with Suzuki for talking to these demons, and one of the guys hit him on the head with his elbow because he was a useless hero who was called by a guy suffering from a heart attack. They got very angry because he had to save them, but suddenly a girl stops them. She is the third princess of their kingdom, and the guy calls her an ex-princess and expresses his anger by saying that they will all pay for this. He rips her shirt and another guy hits the old man on the head, knocking him out. His boyfriend tries to do something indecent to her, but luckily Suzu comes and tells the guy that no one will do anything indecent with the princess, except for him. The guy utters the usual lines of the anime protagonist about justice and kindness, to which the prisoner does not react at all. When he was about to strike another blow on Suzuki, the girl rises and strangles him with the chains on her hands. She extends her hand to Suzuki and thanks him for saving. However, Suzuki reminds her that there is another guy. The princess is in a panic, but it turns out that the servant has already taken care of him. They tie up both guys and Suzuki explains to them that he was reborn from another world. The princess's face shows that this is certainly a sacred creature, but the disadvantage is that he ended up in a different place. Suzuki is sad, since if this guy was reborn in this world, then this world could be saved. Since this guy was given the ability to be super strong, he would kill all the demons on both sides. The servant princess asks what ability he wished for. Suzu explains his ability and says that at first he didn't even think that he would get this ability, since the people he encountered from the very beginning called him a useless freak and garbage, and if their heads had not been cut off first, they might even have spat in his face and fed him to a dog. However, after today, Suzuki became convinced that his ability to be infinitely loved by the local species only works on demons, because his conversations with demons make them really happy and cheer them up. Suzuki does not consider that this power can really save anyone except himself, since demons love only him and not the human race as a whole. He calls himself useless, but the princess tells him that this is not so, since the two maids for whom he stood up when the demons attacked them were not killed. However, they were caught, but without his help they would have been dead. She also says that when he was put in prison she was very scared and couldn't move a finger, but after she saw his bravery it really inspired her and she came to her senses, and she thanks him very much for that. She tells him how glad she is that she is here and very upset that he should tell her thank you. Then he asks to tell him more about this world and he will try to do everything he can. Their faces are shining with joy and the princess was ready to spread her legs and let him go deeper with his tongue. You understand where she is taking him for hand and says that together they will change the world and that the power of friendship will win. A few hours later, Gemini is angry at the guy with a skull in the form of a smiley face for sending Suzuki to the torture chamber, and they are going to turn him into a plus. Gemini starts to sweat since they have never seen that fire like this. Got very angry, but since Suzuki is now safe in the slave house they are going to go visit EF, but suddenly Suzuki appears at the army officer level. The twins panic and Suzuki explains that he asked the prison warden to bring him here as he wants to talk to Fi about something. The warden apologizes, saying that he couldn't resist the smile of Riza Suzuki. The twins understand this and ask Suzuki what he wants to do with NEF. Suzuki explains that in fact he wants to become the exclusive slave of the Fai. Gemini is shocked and confused. In general there is nothing that should be cause embarrassment. The guy is just a man of culture and he wants to try this demoness. Am I wrong, guys? Well, the continuation will come out as always on my boost. There you will, in principle, find the continuation of almost all projects on YouTube, a retelling of New York Man and without any censorship, so be sure to subscribe for my boost. The link to it will be in the description. Well, the microphone was Alice. Soon we'll hear bye bye.